May I live fresh, solid, and free. May all peoples in the world live fresh, solid, and free. Puissiez-je vivre avec fraîcheur, la solidité et la liberté. Et puissent tous les êtres dans le monde vivre avec la fraîcheur, la solidité et la liberté. So we ask the monastics to come forward for chanting.
Contemplation avant le chant. La Sangha est invitée à retourner à sa respiration, afin que l'énergie collective de pleine conscience la rassemble comme un organisme, sans aucune séparation, coulant comme une rivière. Puissions-nous respirer comme un seul corps, chanter comme un seul corps, écouter comme un seul corps, et transcender les frontières d'un soi illusoire, nous libérant ainsi des complexes de supériorité, d'infériorité et d'égalité.
May this practice center with its fourfold Sangha
the dear friends, at the next sound of the small bell, we will all stand up and bow to our teacher.
Dear Tay, dear brothers and sisters, dear community, today is the 17th of March, the year 2022, and we are sitting in the Assembly of Stars Meditation Hall in Lower Hamlet. This is a very happy week for Plum Village because it's the first week that we have opened our doors to receive in-person retreatants without having to quarantine or do all sorts of things, and just first week that we're able to open our doors into the Plum Village. Hug you. we can interact with you. We can talk to you. So I see there's a lot of happiness in our community right now, thanks to the presence of all of our friends who are coming to join us. Or also for our neighbors who come and to join on our days of mindfulness as well. We're also very happy to be able to open our doors again to receive everyone. And this week it has helped me touch a lot of happiness, especially when I think about all of the days of mindfulness that Tay was able to offer here in Plum Village consistently throughout the years. Come rain or shine, or even when he had a cold or no cold, or bodily aches and pains, he never canceled a single day of mindfulness. And even one time there was a blizzard, a snowstorm in Plum Village, and we thought that that day of mindfulness would be canceled, but no, Tay still held the day of mindfulness in Upper Hamlet, and the Lower and Upper Hamlet were able to walk together, but New Hamlet, of course, the roads were too dangerous for them to come that day. And so that memory has stayed with me, and just to see the consistency of Tay's practice and how he was so consistent in offering the practice to everyone who came. So these last few days I've been kind of getting in touch with that, the steadiness of Tay's practice and the community's practice in general. Yesterday we had myself and a few other brothers and sisters had a meeting about our website, and one of the stories that came up during our meeting is that during the last few months, of course, last 2 months or so, after Tay's passing, of course, the news is all on the papers everywhere, and a lot more people are. Tay's name is in many big newspapers, and it sparked a lot of curiosity for many people who have never heard of him before. So they go on the internet and they do a Google search, and strangely, Plum Village shows up. So no page. Tay doesn't have a website like all other teachers of our day, I guess. And so no website of Tay alone, but just Plum Village. And many people, they continue to search, but Plum Village keeps showing up. So they think, no, this isn't what I want to look for. I want to look for Thich Nhat Hanh's name, something like that. And but finally, they have no choice. So they go on the Plum Village website and discover that there's a whole community. That Tay is not just one teacher, but there's a whole community that he had been, built throughout the years, and that is a thriving, living community right now. So yesterday, that conversation kind of, I think Tay would be happy if he knew about that, because throughout Tay's life, he invested his whole being into building community, and not just the monastic community, but the multifold community, and how to build a thriving, healthy, joyful, and vital community. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. the community that Thay has built for us and that we are living in right now. Not just Thay, that each one of us has also contributed into building, and the community that we are profiting from right now. In the sutras, in the middle-length discourse, there's a sutra called the Monument to the Dharma Sutra. It's the 89th sutra in the Majjhima Nikaya, or middle-length discourse. And in that sutra, there's a king, King Prasenajit. He praised the Buddha. He said, "Dear Buddha, every time I see your community, I have great faith in you." And King Prasenajit was a friend of the Buddha's, and in the sutra, Monuments to the Dharma, it's recorded a conversation between the king and the Buddha when they were both 80 years old. So towards the end of the Buddha's life. And today I want to talk a little bit about this sutra and the Plum Village community. So when I read this sutra, so these last few days contemplating about the community, and then I had a chance to read this sutra, in the Vietnamese culture, or many Asian cultures, they speak about filial piety and being kind to your parents, or being able to honor your parents in a good way, or your teachers, showing kindness, showing respect, showing being able to honor our parents and our teachers. So when I read this sutra, I saw that Thay, in the Eastern sense, he was such a kind student of the Buddha. That's the thought that occurred to me, because what was described in the sutra and what I picked up from the sutra, every day I witness in Plum Village. I witness within the Plum Village community. And this sutra was, the conversation happened more than 2,600 years ago about the Buddha's Sangha. And yet, almost everything that was said in the sutra, you could see that the Buddha's Sangha is still alive, very much alive. And I can see that Plum Village isn't like a new creation or a new creation or something that Thay just created by himself, but that he really continued the Buddha's work of Sangha building and community building. So today I just want to talk a little bit about that sutra with you, and to just share. And in many places you see, it's the Buddha's community, the Buddha's Sangha is quite a thriving Sangha. So in the sutra, the king, he pays a visit to this park. He's on an outing and he comes to this beautiful park, and he sees these beautiful trees, and the roots are beautiful, and the place is very quiet, and then he remembers the Buddha. He remembers that he's visited the Buddha in many different forests or places like that before, because the Buddha and the bhikkhus and the Buddha Sangha at the time, wherever they go, very often they would sleep at the foot of a tree. Each person sleep at the foot of a tree and meditate at the foot of a tree. So very often they would come to these forests or places of quiet and to stay there for a while. So while this king was on his outing and he came across this forest, he remembered the Buddha, so he said, well, where is the Buddha now? I would like to go and visit him. So the king's attendant says, oh, the Buddha's not far from here. If you go right now, you can make it before sundown. And so the king goes to where the Buddha is and pays him a visit. And there are details in there that I was like, oh, this, I could see this in Plum Village. Like when the king came to where the Buddha stayed, there's a monk who comes up to him and says, oh yes, the Buddha is staying in that hut. Please walk quietly there. When you're walking there, please be mindful of your steps. Walk quietly and then knock on the door gently. And so for me, whenever, as a novice, I was taught that when I go to Tay's room, even when he's not there, we have to practice to knock gently 3 times, whether he's there or not there. It's a very gentle announcement that someone's at the door. And I remember being trained in that way, first training like that here in Plum Village. I was, I'm just a juxtaposition, how I normally would knock on the door at home or elsewhere. It's like, and I found that, so in the beginning I felt like, am I pretending? Like you had to pretend I felt like I was pretending a little bit. But after a while I saw that, oh, this is, it's not really about pretending. I need that kind of gentle training. I need to kind of practice in such a way that I can rein in my energy and learn how to express myself more gently. And even it was, from the way you knock on the door gently like that, it translates to the way I speak to people or the way I handle many different things in my daily life. I needed to bring in that quality of gentleness, that quality of kindness. So it was a very simple training. But eventually that kind of gentleness seeped into other areas as well. The way we walk, the way we sit, the way we speak, the way we eat is also infused with that kind of gentleness. And while you're here in Plum Village, you can get exposed to that energy, and we can also train ourselves in that energy. How can we approach ourselves in our daily life with more gentleness? So anyhow, going back to the sutra, the monk instructs the king, please walk gently and quietly. So I'm like, oh, it's the same as Plum Village practice. Walk and don't talk, please. So, of course, in your orientation here, you might have been introduced to that, or there's only one style of walking in Plum Village, which is walking meditation. And while we walk, we try not to talk while we're walking, and if we need to talk, we stop and we have our conversation, and then we continue with the walking. And just to train ourselves in being fully present for what we're doing, whether that is just to walk or to talk with someone. We want to be fully present for the conversation. We want to be fully present for ourselves when we walk, and when we are making steps and being in contact with the earth. We want to be fully present with that as well. So when I read this passage, it's like, that's Plum Village training the king is getting, but actually Plum Village is getting the Buddha's training. And so the king comes to the Buddha's hut, and he bows, he prostrates to the Buddha's feet, and he praises the Buddha. He announces himself, dear Buddha, I'm King Prasenajit or Prasenajit. I'm King Prasenajit of Kosala, and I'm here. And the Buddha goes, what's your reason of offering me such a greeting? Like, because he's a king and he's at the Buddha's feet and kissing the Buddha's feet and announcing himself. So the king goes, then in the sutra the king goes on to give a list of reasons why he's doing that. And the first reason is, well, dear Buddha, venerable sir, he says, I've seen many monks and recluses, practitioners, who have been practicing. Sometimes I see them practice for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But at one point I come back, and at one point or another when I meet them again, they're anointed in, I guess he meant like they're wearing fancy things and being like really venerated and things like that, living a bit more luxurious or fancy life. And he goes to the Buddha, but your bhikkhus, I see that they live their life in that simple way throughout the whole of their bhikkhu, of their life as a bhikkhu. And I thought, it's true in Plum Village. We have pocket money. Each monastic, we have pocket money. It's like whatever euros per month, less than 50 euros per month. It used to be 20, and it used to be in francs before. But we have, each month we have this pocket money to buy like toothpaste or, toothbrush or candy or some snacks that you want or something like that. And it's still the same. Even if you are a Dharma teacher, even if you are a Sister Annabelle, the eldest monastic in our community, you still just get the same pocket money. And for our monks and nuns living in our quarters, I do see the simplicity of the Plum Village monastics. Even if you are very, I guess, senior in the Dharma, it's not like you could have your own room or get like really special treatment or something. We still share rooms. We still, unless for some health reason or things like that, then the request is made of the community. But everyone kind of has this equanimous way of being in the Sangha, and I find that really, for my own self, it really protects something in my monastic life, and that this simple living really helps me to protect my monastic values and not get lost in kind of like privileges. Sometimes I guess as in many organizations, as you get senior, you get more privilege, and sometimes that privilege it makes you lose sight a little bit of the important things, why you're doing what you're doing. So I find in the way that we've organized our monastic life, or our life here in Plum Village, in having to share a room with other people, etc., it's really helped us to come back and to really pick out what's important for us in the practice and not get lost in kind of comfort zones, let's say. And maybe for our friends who have come here for the first time, and I see that many of you are here actually for the first time, and it might be strange for you, having roommates. It might be challenging. Maybe in your house you have your own space. You are, king of your own kingdom, queen of your own queendom. But here you have to share space, and what does that mean? Having to share space. What am I giving up in sharing space with another person? When I first came to Plum Village and this roommate, I actually, on the registration form, it said private room with private bathroom. And that was the box I ticked. Back then there was no internet. We had to send in these forms via snail mail. So the form I sent in, I remember I clearly ticked on the box, private room, private bathroom. And then when I came here, I didn't get the private room. I didn't get the private bathroom and private room that I signed up for, and it kind of irked me a little bit in the beginning. I was upset for a few days actually, and but I didn't know who to throw my tantrum to, because if it was in America, you just sue everyone, and then. But in France, in Plum Village, it's like I didn't know who to appeal to, If you talk to this monastic, they're like, oh, it's okay, you just try it. And that monastic, they're like, well, you do have a choice to go home. And I was like, no, I don't want to go home. I want a private room with a private bathroom in Plum Village. So, and I was quite bothered for a few days, and then luckily, they had me room with my cousin, who came with me anyways. But there was another woman who roomed with us, and later on she became a nun. And I get embarrassed sometimes when I have conversations with her and other monastics, because she would reveal things about me as a lay person, like how big my suitcase was, or how much shampoo I brought with me. in the first visit, and but it was being able to room with someone and kind of letting go, the experience of having to let go of my normal comfort space, and just to have to live with someone was a novelty for me, because I think in just how our lives are structured out there, and how much, how it's organized, how we live our daily lives in our house, in our room, and how so separated we all are, that I found that first experience of having to have a roommate, I had to learn about what it meant to interact with another person, to either be aware of another person's presence in a very intimate setting, and to learn how to see my own boundaries and the other person's boundaries. And the most challenging part for me was actually dialogue. How do I enter into dialogue with this other person about small things, like, can you please not put your book there, or I don't want to see a cup with toothpaste and toothbrush on where I put my head, or something like that, like small little things. But I found that, I had to make conversation, and you kind of have to state your needs, communicate your needs, and then after a while those things become small, and you don't want to keep communicating about small things, and I wanted, after a while, those small things became small, because we were able to talk about our daily experiences in Plum Village, interactions with this person or that person, how we're able to apply certain practices. And that was very challenging for me, actually. I wasn't used to having that many conversations with another person on the small things as well as the deeper things. And especially when it came to speaking about emotions or sharing my experiences like that, it was a very foreign thing for me. And so I find, yes, living together, being able to have roommates is such a gift, actually, in the practice, and in helping us to kind of break some of the barriers that we have within ourselves, and also break some of the ideas that we have about ourselves, kind of growing our releasing some of our ideas about ourselves, and also testing what it is, like who I am, and who I am in relation to the people around me. So it was a real, having roommates was a real kind of a deep dive into what we call interbeing, and in our understanding of self and what self is. So, going back to the sutra, the king praises the Buddha for how the monastics live and how they organize themselves to live, to be able to have the same quality of life, whether they're practicing 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. And we can enjoy the sound of the bell now. So the next point in his praise for the Buddha is, I've been, I see that kings, they argue with kings, and the noble people argue with the noble people. They quarrel with each other. Brahmins with Brahmins, and householders with householders, mothers with sons, father with son, etc. Brothers with brothers, sister with sister, sister with brother. But I see the bhikkhus, meaning the monks and nuns, they live in harmony, in concord, with mutual appreciation, and they don't really argue. And they blend like milk and water. So this was what the king was witnessing in the community. And maybe when you're, I could see this also, how the king had viewed the Buddha's community. But being a nun, a monastic on the inside, so I could, many people, they come to our community, whether online or in person, and they're like, wow, the monastics, they get along so well with each other, and etc. Actually, there's a lot of work, that needs to happen for you to have that actually feeling. We do have harmony, I would say, as a community, but that also comes with practice. It doesn't mean that we're always in perfect harmony. There are arguments, there are beginning anews, there are disagreements, but I think we are lucky as a community to have so many different practices offered to us to help us to restore communication and to reconcile with each other. Practices like deep listening, loving speech, beginning anew, how to share about a difficulty, and how to communicate our difficulty, and also how to nourish each other with our joy or our recognition of one another, how to acknowledge each other, how to acknowledge each other's goodness and wonderful qualities. So we have all those practices that we do very often, and it gives you this picture of a wonderful, harmonious Sangha. But I just want to say caveat to this praise of the King to the Buddhist Sangha, that does not come without work. And there's a lot of personal healing that has to happen, and also healing as a community as well. So interacting with our Sangha, it might look, how it looks like you don't get angry. Yes, we do get angry. It looks like you don't argue. Yes, we do argue. But we also are very lucky in having practices to help us to take care of anger, take care of each other's anger, and also to restore communication. And while you're here, I hope you have many opportunities for our brothers and sisters to share with you about our practice of beginning anew, and how to reconcile, and especially how to de-escalate tension, take care of tension and to not escalate. And the third point that the king praised the Sangha is that, I see so many recluses too. They practice and they seem a bit wretched. Some of them they're so lean and wretched and jaundiced and veins standing out, etc. And so he asked them, why are you practicing like that? And some of them answer, it's our family sickness. So some of them have maybe genetic, I forgot the name. Yeah, some illness. But the king says, but I see the bhikkhus, they're smiling and they're cheerful, they're sincerely joyful and plainly delighting, with their faculties fresh and living at ease, they're unruffled, and they're subsisting on what others give, and abiding with mind as a wild deer's. So the king's witnessing this joyful community. When I read this passage, I was so moved because it kind of gave me a glimpse into the Buddhist Sangha at the time, and how this person is witnessing the monks and nuns with such vitality, joy, and health, good health. And in Plum Village too, I've seen that. I have memories of Tay, like really looking at the well-being of our monastic community, not just our health, but not just our mental health, but also our physical health as well. There are times when Tay, I remember in one Dharma talk, Tay spoke about the toothpaste that he used, and encouraging the community to use that toothpaste, because he found it's ever since he used that toothpaste, he didn't have any cavities. So so small things like that. And Tay really took care of the Sangha in terms of our physical needs as well as our emotional and mental well-being. So this passage, I see oh, the Buddha did take care of his monastics. Because at the time of the Buddha, there were so many people practicing asceticism. And the Buddha himself, he did also practice that. But he found that forcing the body and to extremes is not a way, not a good way to practice. And so he found this middle way of practicing where, you know, you can guard your the health of your body as well as the health of your mind. And the important thing, the thing that caught my eye with this passage is just seeing the vitality. And I do see as practitioners, sometimes we have many ideas about what the practice is or isn't, and what mindfulness is or isn't. I think for me, also in the beginning, I had many ideas about how I could practice so I could be mindful all day, you know, every moment of the day. And this, in a way, was a bit like a form of asceticism as well. You know, you want to be like so disciplined that you. But I find like in that way, there's no ease in the body. So for me, practicing mindfulness, whatever ideas that I may have about what the practice is or isn't, now I have certain markers that can kind of tell me if I am, you know, if this is something I should continue or not. One is that, do I have ease in my body? Do I have ease in my body? Or is there, do I have ease in my mind? Is there tension in my body? Is there tension in my mind? And if there is, sometimes I have to question again how I'm practicing, or how can I change my practice in such a way that there is ease and there's relaxation in both my body and my mind. So if we should have come across a practice that we're doing and we feel a bit tense, we might have to approach it again and see how we're doing it. Are we understanding the practice correctly? Are we applying it correctly? And Tay has often told us this too. When we apply it, when we practice, we should know. When we practice correctly, we should know right away, because joy is there, happiness is there, ease is there. And the fourth point, and this is something that made me also smile when I read, that the king praised is, he says, I am being a head anointed noble king. I can have anyone executed when I say you know, or whatever. I can have anyone executed, I can have anyone exiled and things like that. But when I'm sitting in my council, I still have people who interrupt my speech, who break my speech and who interrupt me while I'm speaking. And then he says, but dear Buddha, when you give a Dharma talk, I can't even hear, not a single person is coughing or even dare coughs or clears their throat. And he goes, one time I witnessed a bhikkhu, a monk, clearing his throat while you were giving the Dharma talk, and the monk next to him nudges him with his knee as if to say, be quiet, the Buddha is giving the Dharma talk. And this passage really made me smile, because I remember my first time having formal lunch in Plum Village. So in formal lunch, the monks and nuns line up. We serve our food in our alms bowl, and also our lay friends follow suit. And then we all serve our food, and we make a procession and walk into the meditation hall. and we sit in order of ordination. So very often, Tay, when he's at the bell for these formal lunches, he waits until everyone is seated. And the first time I experienced this, I thought, okay, well, as soon as a good number of people are seated, maybe Tay will start the meal. And then I kept waiting, and I kept waiting, and I kept waiting. And half an hour waiting is pretty long, especially if you already have your food and the food is in front of you, and you think, when can we start eating? And then Tay waited and waited, and then the last person came in, which is the lunch bell starts at 12:30, and like by 1 o'clock, then Tay starts with the contemplations for the meals, and we have this meal together. But I remember it was in the meditation hall of New Hamlet, and it was my first experience of formal lunch, and just the amount of quiet that was in the hall. I mean, when we came in with our food as well, and then when we started eating together, I thought, wow, like the moment right before Tay gives his contemplation, there was so much quiet in the hall, I couldn't even, like you could hear a pin drop, and that was my first time experiencing like an event outside of a sitting meditation that had such quality of stillness and quietness, and it just really, I was just so impressed. Nowhere in the world could I have had that experience something like that. And also in Tay's Dharma talks too, I remember. The hall was so quiet. And I didn't even dare cough. And well, now a number of us, when we're editing some of Tay's, like the sound editing or the video editing of some of Tay's Dharma talks, or trying to just get certain passages that he delivered so, quite powerfully, the thing we get irritated about is the coughing in the background, because you can't really remove it. You can't really remove it from the audio. We'll see in the future if AI is able to do it. But yeah, I remember that quality. So, and I thought, oh, even now today, if I give this talk, no one's going to interrupt me. And it's true. From the beginning till now, no one has interrupted me yet. So I thought, oh, I'm going to experience something that even King Prasenajit has never experienced in his councils, which is to never get interrupted while you're speaking. Yeah. And so moving on. The king praised the Buddha also in this next point, how he was able to transform so many people that came to him. Those who initially came, who wanted to argue with the Buddha over some point or other, and as soon as they heard his Dharma, they had no more arguments, something like that, and so on. So he names a number of different people who comes to the Buddha, from renowned venerables to people, lay men and women, even monastics in other traditions as well. When they come to take refuge in the Buddha, then and listen to his Dharma, then they experience transformation, and then they make. So this, I guess this is the closest I'll get to interruption, and not by a person. So The next part is just praising how the Buddha was able to inspire transformation in so many people through his Dharma. And inspire them to practice the way of the Dharma. And the last praise that the king gave to the Buddha was something I witnessed recently during Thay's ceremonies, and when we went back to Vietnam to invite Thay's ashes back to Plum Village. So the king says, I have these two inspectors. I have these two inspectors, these two soldiers, officers maybe. And they eat my food and they use my carriages, and I provide them with a livelihood. Basically, I pay for their salary. I provide them with food and clothing and shelter. And yet they don't do me such honor as they do. They don't honor me the same way as they honor the Buddha. And he said, and he told the story of how the king told the story of how he was out with his inspectors one day, and they were living in very cramped, tight quarters, in very cramped quarters, and the two inspectors, after spending some time discussing with each other about the practice and the Dharma, and when it came time for them to lay down to sleep, they were asking, oh, where's the direction of the Buddha right now? So they went, oh, in that direction. And then they lay down to sleep, and the king goes, they put their head in the direction of the Buddha and their feet to the direction of the king. So the king goes, well, that really showed me. So the king's trying to explain to the Buddha why he's honoring the Buddha at this point. And so one of his examples is, even the people whom I pay a salary, I take care of, I provide their livelihood, but they're paying more respects to you than to me. So that is why right now I am paying all my respect to you, because you deserve all this respect, due respect. But it was such a lovely image. And when we were in Vietnam to bring back, to invite Thay's ashes back to Plum Village, I also witnessed this kind of respect for Thay, actually, and his Dharma. So many people that we encountered, from business people to just people on the streets and in shops and things like that. Every time we mentioned Thay, there was this kind of very special sacred place in their heart for Thay. And in some places where there's when we visited some homes or even some the place where Thay's picture is, or the place where it's the most special place in the house. So I saw this kind of reverence for Thay, and I was quite moved. And when we were carrying the ashes back, and when we got to the Paris airport, I was also moved in Charles de Gaulle when we got out of the luggage, when we finished collecting our luggage. What I didn't realize was there would be a procession there from Maison de l'Inspire, and we were inside Charles de Gaulle. And our brothers and sisters had incense lit, incense in Charles de Gaulle. Candles inside an airport, lit candles, and flowers, and our possession, and our monastics in our sangati and brown and this possession, And Charles de Gaulle, I remember every time I go in there, particularly that hallway is always busy, and people are, the whole hallway is almost filled with people going back and forth. But that day, as we got out of the luggage, taking the luggage out, and we came out and we saw the procession from Maison de l'Inspire all around the monastic brothers and sisters, and they had a picture of Thay as well. They had a picture of Thay they were carrying, and I saw everyone there gave this such a wide berth, as if there was an understanding that there was something happening at this moment. And even if you weren't Buddhist, even if I'm sure many people passing through Charles de Gaulle, like 99% aren't Buddhists. And yet there was this wide berth that was given to the group of monks and nuns there, and Thay's picture with incense and candle. And no one said anything. The security didn't say anything. Just everyone gave Thay that moment of being received, his ashes being received. So we got out, and, well, this is something I do want to do, beginning anew with Brother Phaphu about, and it'll show you about we have harmony, but we have moments like this too. So Brother Phaphu gets out of the luggage thing, and he knows this procession is coming, so he takes off his travel jacket and his backpack, and he's all, our brown long robe, very proper as a monastic. So he's preparing himself, he's looking very proper. And I get out of the luggage, I get out of customs, and I'm just worried about blocking the people's way in the back of me. So I'm just worried about getting the cart out of the way. And then Brother Phaphu gives me a signal. Yes, we have to deliver Thay's ashes to the brothers and sisters at Maison de l'Inspire. So as soon as I get the cart out of the way and I take Thay's ashes, and I turn around and I see he's really proper. And I'm in all my travel gear. I'm in all my travel gear with my scarf, not really pretty looking, my travel bag, my travel jacket, and I'm not in my monastic brown robe. Anyhow, so I had to flow with the moment, and even though not looking proper, and carrying Thay's ashes, and for a moment I said, Thay, I'm really sorry. Your whole monastic life, every time you presented yourself to the public, you were always very proper, and I do want to do beginning anew with you at this moment, but we have to move forward because people were going out of customs and things like that. So we delivered the ashes, and Brother Phaphu very beautifully, me less beautiful, but my whole heart was there. And I guess what I'm trying to say in this moment, besides the not looking beautiful, that the respect that everyone had for Thay, even Brother Phaphu in that moment when he made himself really proper, was also the love and respect that he was showing for Thay and for the moment, and delivering that, and just the love and yeah, the love and I guess the seeding way, everybody just allowing that moment to happen in the middle of Charles de Gaulle. I was quite moved, and so when I read this passage of the king and how his two attendants pay more respect to the Buddha, I really saw that kind of respect and veneration was available to Thay as well. Um, so I guess today's sharing is just about how there is a community that has continued since the Buddha's time, and how many of the elements that we found that were found in the Buddha's time is still continuing today, and that continuation is thanks to the many generations of teachers and community builders, and Tay being one of them, who have kept really to the spirit of what a thriving community looks like. And so today we have the Plum Village community, and it's a community that we can take refuge in. It's a community that that can offer us support, and as many of us we experience, it's so much easier to practice in community than it is alone. For instance, when I go on home visit, maybe I do sitting meditation 3 times a week. But in community, that sitting meditation is much more consistent. Everyday walking meditation, we have a schedule. And the amount of mindfulness that we can generate on an individual, as an individual, is only so much. But the mindfulness, the amount of mindfulness, concentration and insight that we can generate as a community is manifold, is much more amplified than we can as an individual. And I also see that the insights that came up for me recently is especially when we met to decide to open a Plum Village to receive everyone without quarantine, without mask, or without tests. I saw, and we met actually for the first time as bhikshu, bhikshunis of 3 hamlets. So the monks and nuns of 4 hamlets, all of the Plum Village monks and nuns met together in one meeting. Normally, our meetings, we would have lower hamlet meet separately, upper hamlet meet separately, new hamlet meet separately, Sangha meet separately, and then have decisions made like that. But what I noticed when we met together as a whole community was that even though we may have concerns about opening up again, even though there may be fear, even though there may be anxiety, So yesterday, our neighbor came and he helped us to, because he's the one who found the spring, and he came and he helped us to dig this spring, a 4-meter wide kind of little pond. So yesterday we got to witness the spring fill up, the trickle of water in. I'm not sure if you could see the water trickling in now, because the height of the water might be above where the water is coming out right now. But you can, if you have a chance, you can come down to near where the happy farm is, and that's where the new spring is. You might find, that might be the hermit and the well, Tay's new spring. And one of the things that occurred to me yesterday was, in this spring, the water is trickling out so little. There's so little water coming out of this source. And in the beginning, I only saw like half an inch, a little bit in the bottom. And then 2 hours later, I came and the water is this much. And 4 hours later, it was this much. And by the evening, it was almost knee level. And I thought, wow, you don't need much. In terms of peace, or in terms of happiness, or in terms of generating mindfulness or solidity, we don't need much. We just need a tiny bit every single day, or even a tiny bit, but it adds up. It adds up, and when you have a well, then you see how much it could actually add up, as so long as the trickle keeps coming in. So with the practice of mindfulness as well, the practice of generating peace, the practice of generating a moment of happiness, we just need to trickle in a little bit, and be consistent with it, and that adds up to great, a much more powerful energy of mindfulness. It adds up to much greater peace. It adds up to much greater happiness. So in terms of taking refuge in a community, practicing with the community, and just going together, we also, each one of us, are adding that little bit of trickle. And we as a community can just do a little bit at a time. But that well, who knows, it could fill up a whole lake. We're looking forward to it and seeing how it would go. But yes, we hope that you can also, each one of us, be inspired enough in the practice that we just do tiny. We only need to do a tiny bit each day. Yes. So thank you very much for being here this morning and listening to me uninterrupted, undisturbed. I feel I could have a conversation with King Prasenajit and say, "Oh, I'm just a commoner, but I have had this experience." Thank you so much.